Good evening. My name is Raydell Cordell III, and I will serve as the moderator in this evening virtual panel discussion of August Wilson Fences. Fences is part of August Wilson's 10-play cycle that tracks the African American experience during the 20th century. Each play represents a decade in the 20th century. In this evening's panel discussion, I am joined by a panel of locally and nationally known actors from here in Omaha, Nebraska. The panel, could you one by one go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience, and then also let the audience know your connection to August Wilson, to one of his plays, or to him as an individual?
Well, I'll start. I'm Kathy Tyree, and I am the owner of Kathy Tyree Productions. I have been performing in the Omaha area for 40 plus years now. I'm a singer, an actress, and now a director. I have only done one August Wilson piece, and that was Joe Turner's Come and Gone in this actual space that we're recording in right now. And then did a little work on piano lessons. But I love his work. I think his work is meaningful and amazing. But I'm sitting on the panel with the wealth of knowledge, okay, down here at the end of the table. So, but that's who I am, and that's what I do.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm Tyrone Beasley. I was in that play with Kathy right here. That was actually my second play that I've ever been in. But as the artistic director of the John Beasley Theater, I have either acted or directed in all 10 of the Pittsburgh cycle plays, and have worked with some of the actors who originated some characters in several of the plays, and worked with Claude Purdy, who got August Wilson started writing plays.
Great. Thanks, Tyrone.
Yeah, John Beasley, and I have a long history with August Wilson. You know, in fact, I got my equity card in Rockford, Illinois, playing Troy in Fences. And then I was invited to do Joe Turner's Come and Gone at the Goodman Theater in Chicago. I also did Two Trains Running with August Wilson present in Chicago. I joined the cast after it come off Broadway with Roscoe Roscoe Lee Brown, Anthony Chisholm, who created the role of the tailor in Jitney, and who just passed today, a good friend. And I had him here in Omaha, and in fact, I've had a lot of the original cast members here to perform, and I don't remember, Raydell, if I had anybody when you came in, but you know, we brought Anthony Chisholm in several times, and then I've had the opportunity to work with Lloyd Richards, who was the first director of Fences, and I've done I produced or either directed all 10 of, or was in all 10 of August Wilson's plays. In fact, I did August Wilson 20th Century at the Kennedy Center in D.C. in 2008, and we did all 10 of his plays, and I did 3 of them. I did Fences and Joe Turner and Jitney. And we did all three of them ran for about 3 days, and then the next one would come in, and then they did them all over again. So it was a great opportunity to work with a lot of Wilsonian warriors at that time in D.C., and a lot of the top Wilson actors were there, was there, so it was a great experience for me. And then, like I said, I worked with August a couple of times, once in Chicago and once in Atlanta doing Jitney. So, I consider myself, an expert on August's work. I'm critical of others who do it. In fact, I did Fences in Boston. After doing it in D.C., I was asked to do it in Boston, and so this was the first time this show had been run there at the Huntington in Boston, and they had waited 20 years to do it, because when they first asked for it, it was on its way to Broadway, and August said, we'll let you have everything else. So I think Joe Turner was the next one, and then so that they got everything from then. So they waited at least 20 years to do it. I told them they were waiting for me. Leon Kenny directed the play in Boston, and he also did it on Broadway when the play finally got to Broadway. And I knew it was going to Broadway after Huntington because all of August's plays had to go through the Huntington, the Goodman Theater. They would do their rounds so August could, fix them as it was going along. And so by the time it was, we had finished the play in Boston, I had gotten an award for Best Actor in a large theater. But Troy is that type of role. And it was going to Broadway, and I knew I was going to get it. Kenny Leon was directing and everything. And then they bring in this guy, Denzel Washington. And I'm like, what the hell is that all about? You know? I mean, I needed that a hell of a lot more than he did. And I think I would have done a better job. I'm just saying.
That's great. Thank you, John, so much. Thank you so much for your experience. And I had the privilege to work with both John and Tyrone here in the former John Beasley Theater in a production of Fences, in a production of Raydell Golf as well. So Fences is about Troy Maxson, who makes his living as a sanitation worker in the 1950s Pittsburgh. Maxson once dreamed of becoming a professional baseball player, but was deemed too old when the major leagues began admitting black athletes. Bitter over his missed opportunity, Troy creates further tension in his family when he squashes his son's chances to meet a college football recruiter. Now, the movie Fences came out in 2016, Christmas Day, and in 2017, it was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, and taking home was Best Supporting Actress Viola Davis. So our first discussion of this evening is, unfortunately, there are not a lot of strong black female characters written in literature, but Wilson has written many strong black female characters throughout his 10-play cycle. How would you describe Rose's role within the 10-play cycle, and how would you describe her role if Fences was written in today?
You know, I if you don't mind, I would like to say that I've always felt that Rose is one of the best roles written for a black woman in literature, period. Rose, and having said that, Fences was not Rose's play. It was Troy Maxson's story. And that's my problem with the film, is that Denzel did not make it about Troy. It was about Rose. And Rose, I mean, there's some strong speeches in there for Rose. I mean, it's just a beautiful Rose. And when we did the play here, I think we did it maybe 3 times. And each time, I found some strong black women in here that understood who Rose was and just did an incredible job with it. Tammy Ray Jackson is one of them I can think of. Phyllis Butler is another, and they did great jobs in it. But it's a great role. In fact, when I opened this theater, it was because of that role of Rose. Phyllis Butler wanted to learn how to act. And so I said, here, take a look at this. And she got it, and she started, starting to get in it, and we would rehearse it. And then I said, well, let me see if I can add somebody around her. And I started finding people, added people around her. And then next thing I know, we had Fences, so we had to, put, and then that was the opening of John Beasley Theater.
Was Fences.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
So Raydell, when you talk about Rose's character in relation to African-American women today,
Yes.
It's unfortunate that so much has changed, but so much is still the same.
Yeah.
So much is still the same. And her character was that of holding her family down, holding her man down, being there to support him when the world was beating him down. And unfortunately, in him beating down, kind of turned onto her. And she had to take on some of that. The beating down turned to her being beat down in his infidelity and in his frustration with not being able to fulfill his dreams. And if you look at today, it's much of the same situation, just in a prettier package. Men of color, in particular black men, are still stifled on a regular basis. There's still many, many attempts put in place to hold them back, to keep them from fulfilling their dreams, to keep them from being the pillars in the community and their families and society that their hearts really desire them to be. And so that's what I mean when I say it's still a lot of the same issues, the same problems, the same concerns. It's just in a prettier package.
Sort of package.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I have to agree with that, that it's, she's a character who, like, takes on everything and holds her family together. And, and that, as Kathy just eloquently stated, that, that still goes on today, where, black man is being held back, and the black woman is there to take on everything and support the family and try to take care of her egos, and also try to build up their man and their family.
Okay.
And I certainly don't want to imply that black men are not doing their part in the community. I'm one of the
Right.
sisters that truly believe in my brothers. And so that is certainly not what I'm trying to imply, but it is very evident and very clear that the equity is not there, but those hurdles most certainly are.
Mm-hmm.
Most certainly are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think as far as like, what was that? The other part of your question, how does she stack up with?
Within a 10-play cycle, yeah, the character roles.
I think she is like in a long line of them where they're.
Aunt Esther was a
Yeah.
great character, a female character, and she was a leader, and her presence was felt all throughout the whole 10 cycles.
Yeah.
Even until Radio Golf, which was the last play in that 10-play cycle. There were always, Ma Rainey, there were always strong women in his plays. And I believe that's because, August had strong women in his life. His fathers were the guys in the barbershop and in those
Yeah.
places, But I'm sure his mother kept things
Yeah, and his
together.
father wasn't
Yeah,
there
wasn't there.
in his life. He didn't, was hardly there. So, it was his mother, he was raised by his mother. And,
She was a white woman, I believe.
No, black woman.
She's a black woman.
Woman,
Her father
yeah.
was, yeah.
So then, could I ask, from your experiences, both Tyrone and John, with Fences and the many productions you've seen and been in, the approach of Rose, right? So compared to Davis's portrayal, how would you compare and contrast the two?
Oh, her portrayal is just, I've never seen one better. I thought she hit it straight on. With the Roses that I've worked with, one of the toughest speeches is Rose's great speech, and what about me?
What about me?
And it's just such a great speech, and you've got to, and I think I've had actresses that have approached it at times angry, but you can't attack that speech like that. It has to be, her, you've got to feel her and what she's going through. It can't be through the anger, though. It has to be looked at through the love, And I was there for you, Troy. I was there. And I think that's how that speech has to. And Viola Davis is just such an incredible actress. She, like I say, she wins the Best Actress award, and she deserved it. But Troy should have also won a Best Actor award, because, like I said, it's his story, and Rose is there, but she's not. It's not her show.
Gotcha.
you know. But, I mean, what an incredible role, though, and Viola Davis is just, I was just, oh, man. I just wish I could have played across from her, played with Viola. And I'll get a chance to do that one day. Maybe not Fences, but we'll do something.
Thank you, John. So Fences, August Wilson wrote Fences in 1983, but was published in 1985, which in 1987 won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama and the Tony for Best Drama. Now, the play takes place in 1957 Pittsburgh. So in the opening scene in the movie Fences, Davis's character, Rose, states, "A lot of folks don't think they can do no better than they're doing now." Having the play set in 1957 and written in 1983, how would this line connect to the African American community in the 1950s, the 1980s, and today?
Me?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Or anyone, yeah. We're all family. Give away.
Yeah, no. Again, it's just history repeating itself.
Or things don't change.
It just doesn't
Just a different
change.
package. It's just that pretty
It's just a
package.
different execution.
Yeah.
The oppression,
Because
excuse me,
yeah,
is just in a
yeah.
different package. You know, I remember when, you know, after COVID hit and Black Lives Matter took off, I remember my mother looking at the TV screen one day and just leaning back in her recliner and saying, "Are we really doing this again? We really have to do this again? I thought we already did this." You know, and so that speaks volumes in relation to this. So there's really not a lot of difference. I mean, there's far more opportunities, don't get me wrong, but again, that equity piece is not there. Yeah, the opportunities are put out there, but they're only put out there, it's kind of doled out, for lack of a better word. It's like, you can do this over here, but you can't do this over here. This is still controlled over here. So this is allowed, but only this far, and only so much, and only as it's rationed out.
But, you know, I would say, though, too, that, you know, the line was, a lot of people don't know they can do better than what they're doing now.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And that's true. And they may limit themselves to this or that, but they don't know if they want to, they can do better. And I've instilled that in my boys, and my sons have instilled that in their kids. And I have a grandson who's in the NBA. That's 1% of all the basketball players in the world make it to the NBA. It's a brotherhood. And but I've always encouraged them that you can do what you want to do, but a lot of people don't know that.
And
A lot of people don't know that.
I agree that you can. I
Oh,
absolutely.
no, we're definitely limited, but you can get
But you
over
are
that.
definitely limited, and it should be more of a majority.
It should be.
And I don't think
And
it's
it's
that
not.
people, I think, you know, I think we all have dreams inside. I think every individual has a dream in their heart, but everybody doesn't have the support system to help push them to that dream. I truly believe in generational curses that are many times, if you track the generational curse back to its origin, it's systemic.
But don't you think?
And it's hard to break through those barriers.
But-
And I'm not saying that you can't.
No, right.
Because I totally agree with
Yeah.
you. I raised my son the exact same way.
Yeah.
He is now one of the lead designers for Pierre Moss in New York City.
But-
Because he believed that he could.
Exactly.
But he had the support, and he had a village.
But
that
at the
pushed
same
him
time,
there.
but at the same time, the question was, can people do more than, if you think you can do better, you can do better. But if you don't know, she says, they don't know that they can do better. Your son knew, obviously, that he
As
could
did
do
yours.
better.
Right.
So that's why
As
he
did
did
yours.
better.
Nice.
But a lot of people don't know they can do better.
And
Why
also,
do you think
there's,
people
like,
don't know? Like,
Because the media, I mean, images in
you.
the media.
Thank you.
And they don't
you know,
see themselves, but
Exactly.
still,
And, you know, in these like systemic racism.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are you know, if they don't have that support system, then they don't know that they can
right.
do better. I mean, I've heard children being told by their teachers in school that they're not going to amount to anything.
Yes.
So they
That
don't
they'll
know they can do
never
better.
be anything. So
They don't know. They don't know.
that they can do better.
But if you know, you can do better.
Right. And a lot of it has to do with conditioning.
Right.
Yeah.
See,
Which is what Tyrone's speaking
like
about.
when you know when I'm in the industry and I look beyond the cameras and I don't see any blacks, they don't know that those jobs exist. A lot of them don't even know that those jobs exist. And so they never thinking that they can be going to school for different things and not know that those types of jobs exist because we've been kept out of them for so long because of the unions and things and the nepotism and all that goes on. So we don't know. And so when I'm on there and I'm saying, wow, where are the black? I mean, they're keeping them out. They're keeping us out.
Right.
But at the same time, a lot of us don't know about those jobs. We don't know about it. If we knew about them, then maybe we could pursue those jobs.
And if you thought, and if more of us knew about them and more of us pursued them, do you think opportunities would be given
They are.
to
They
more
are.
people of color in
They'll
the
find their
industry?
way. They'll find their way. You can't, it's just like me as an actor. I didn't know what I was going to get into when I got out there. I knew that I had a dream, and I knew that if I'm in this position, you know, I can at least work and get some work. But I can't worry about what's going to happen when I get out there. I've got to make the commitment first.
Okay.
And you don't worry about what, and if you make the commitment, you will find a way. You will find a way. But if you never make the commitment, you know, and then retire from some job you didn't like and I wish I had done this. No, that's not the way to live a life, because I wouldn't want to go into a job 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, whatever, and it's just a job. It's just a job. That's just, I mean, like, is that what life is all about?
So going back to it, you know, it all goes back to your experiences and
Right.
different perspectives, right?
Right.
Which is great because this echoes to a lot in the script and the film, which I want to touch
Yeah.
base on because you brought this up, John, about teaching to your son and your grandson. So the film does a great job in capturing the generational differences of father and son dynamics. Troy and his father,
Yeah.
Troy and Lyons, Troy and Corey. What could you say about Troy's relationship with each of his sons, and are those dynamics still represented in black families today?
I would say, yeah, but coming out, you know, coming up in the 50s, I know there was this thing in families. First of all, you know, men weren't touchy-feely. You didn't hug your kids, and my mother didn't hug me. You know, that's kind of thing was it was just was. If you don't mind, I have a speech here by Troy that I like to, you know, that tells you about where he's coming from as
Absolutely.
a father. He says, Corey asked him, he says, why, you know, he asked Corey, you know, why do you think I give you a home and clothing and all that? And Corey says, because you like me. And Troy says, like you? I go out here every morning, bust my butt, putting up with them crackers every day because I like you? You about the biggest fool I ever saw. It's my job. It's my responsibility. You understand that? A man got to take care of his family. You live in my house, sleep your behind on my bedclothes, fill your belly up with my food because you my son. You my flesh and blood, not because I like you. Because it's my duty to take care of you. I owe responsibility to you. And let's get this straight right here before we go along any further. I ain't got to like you. Mr. Rand don't give me my money come payday because he like me. He give me because he owe me. And I done give you everything I had to give you. I gave you your life. Me and your mama worked that out between us. And liking your black ass wasn't part of the bargain. Don't you try to go through life worrying about somebody like you. You best be making sure they're doing right by you. You understand what I'm saying, you boy? Then get the hell out of my face and get on down to that A&P. And that was his philosophy. You know, I'm taking care of you, I'm doing my job. That's all I got to do. And there are people like that today, and I understand where he's coming from because it was his father. But having said that, is that we learn from our fathers how to be fathers. even if your father is not there. My father wasn't there. And so my thing as a father was I wanted to be everything to my kids that my father wasn't to me. So you still learn, even though, they're not there. You either learn from him, and he was with his father, and his father was an evil man. His father was an evil man, and he ran him off at 14 years of age, and so he never had a father. His father was, I'm sure he was homeless. I'm sure he was out there, moving around from place to place and getting mentored by some of the older men he ran into. But he was never taught how to be a father. And Troy, to me, really never learned how to love, I don't think, because of his father. And I think that colored everything about him.
That's a tension right there. That's a conflict with Troy.
But those guys those people still exist today. But I have to say, though, too, that there are a lot of good black fathers out there, contrary to what we're led to believe.
Absolutely. Tyrone?
And I think, like Troy learned from his father that it was just a responsibility to take care of.
When his mother left when he was about 6 years old, 8 years old. Said she was coming back and never came back. And so his father raised those kids, because that was his responsibility.
And Troy mentions that this is my
that
responsibility.
was his responsibility.
Right. And I think, and Troy also mentions that he wants his sons to be better than he is.
Yeah.
So he has, he has that love for them, but he doesn't know how to show it because he wasn't nurtured that way.
Yeah.
So then could you say that's the main conflict with his relationship with his oldest son, Lyons, the musician?
I think he liked Lyons, but he wanted Lyons to be better. He thought Lyons was wasting his time as a musician.
Yeah, he think what he wanted from his sons was to be practical because of what happened with him with baseball.
Right.
Like he was an amazing baseball player, but he didn't get a chance to play professional baseball because they weren't letting black men play baseball at that time.
And he didn't want Corey to get hurt over that dream. So he didn't want Corey, he wanted to protect Corey from that. So he still was trying to be responsible,
And he wanted both of his sons to be more practical. He thought, Lyons was a jazz musician. Yeah. And, he didn't think there was anything.
There's no future in that.
So he wanted better for his sons. But all he saw was that, a responsibility.
And he had a special relationship with Lyons. Lyons, whenever Lyons needed anything, he'd show up. You know what I'm saying?
And Troy would give it to him.
And Troy would give him that lecture. He would put him through hell, but then he wound up giving him.
Yeah. Here you go.
You know?
You know what I do with my money.
So, in his mind, he was a good father, you know?
Great. Thank you. Your thoughts, Kathy?
Well, when you compare Troy to men of today,
Yes.
I think that was
ma'am.
that was the question. Okay. Troy's relationships with his son could appear and come across as non-loving. I saw more into that, just as I do many black men today that are raising their sons. Like so many black men today, they're faced with so many challenges. Again. Emotional, mental, physical abuse, and their love is shown as opposed to showing it from here, and from here, it's more shown what I'm providing to you, what I'm giving to you. I love my family because I put a roof over their head, I put food on the table, and it was that way then, and in many ways, it's that way now. I think it's shifting because more and more men of color, African American men, are embracing their emotional health and their emotional well-being. They're recognizing that it's okay to feel, it's okay to have emotions, it's okay to say I love you, it's okay to show I love you. And I can honestly say when I look at my family, not so much with the older gentlemen as with the younger gentlemen, because, like I think it was John that said, this is the way it was, way it was back then. and you didn't deviate from that. When I think of my grandfather, when I think of my uncle passed a couple of years ago, and he was truly a provider, loving man, but if he couldn't put that money down, he felt less than. And that was his way of showing you, I got you, I love you, I care for you. Anything you need, you can come to me. I mean, it was to the point, sometimes you just say you needed something just to make him feel better.
Yeah,
You didn't really
yeah.
need it, you know,
Yeah.
you just wanted him to feel better. You know? Seriously,
Yeah.
you wanted him to feel like he was giving you something, because that was so important to him as a black man, to know that he was providing for his family. Whereas the younger men in my family, they're more loving. I have a nephew. When you see him, you see his kids. I mean, they are like just right there with him, and he got 8 of them. And his babies are with him. He loves his kids. He loves that he's a father. And those kids, there's never a doubt in their mind that they are loved. And I just think it's because more and more, as a community, as a society, it's okay to deal with that emotional and mental health. Because that's really what that is. When you look at how Troy navigated life in the play and in the script, he was in an emotional battle. He was in emotional turmoil.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that also, came from how he was raised, and also
Right.
how he,
What he had to go
his
through.
dream,
Yeah.
how that was shattered. And not being able to fulfill his dream. I wonder, what he would be like if he were allowed to play baseball.
Right.
Okay.
And to be
Right.
successful at that.
So, again, going back to perspectives and trying to figure out the different generation gaps here, identity. Identity is a prominent theme of the film and of the script. The film does a great job in capturing moments when characters are fighting for their identity. Troy lamenting about his baseball days, Rose passionately explaining her wants and needs in the family, Corey trying to be a college football player, and Lyons being a musician. How is the theme of identity the same or different for African Americans today?
I mean, I think
Tyrone?
one of the things about Fences and August Wilson as a writer is that the themes that he writes about in all of his plays are universal. I mean, and every one of them is something that's still going on today. So, I mean, it's as strong today as it was in the 1950s.
John?
Oh, I agree with him,
Kathy?
Yeah, I think that struggle of being seen, being heard, being allowed to be, is still very much a thing, in our society today. And we see it in the news, we see it.
You see it in films.
In films, we see it
on TV shows.
everywhere. Yeah,
You see it everywhere.
yeah, it's still very prevalent.
And there's Black Lives Matter movement.
Right, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, so going on to talk about themes of the play and of the movie, Fences, the namesake, is the huge symbolic, right? It's this huge symbol in the movie and the script. There's a line from Bono, Troy's friend. He states, "Some people build fences to keep people out, and other people build fences to keep people in." Which part of the line would you agree to, and could you say this line is a reflection of our society today? And you can agree to the whole line.
Yeah.
You can agree to the whole line, but there's a part you're like, I think fences keep people in, or I feel people
But,
keep
yeah,
people
I
out.
mean, it depends on, who's building the fence.
Right,
And,
whose fence it
you know,
is, who the fence
but-
belongs to, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that is, that metaphor still stands.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be literal fences, psychological fences.
Right, right.
Which also explains a lot to
You
Troy's.
keep people in, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
John, so could I ask, with your experience in connection to August Wilson, has there ever been a discussion about the title of Fences? How you came up with
Not
it? or-
really, not really, because I think that line there says the whole thing. It says all there is to say about fences. Rose wanted him to build that fence, and I think for her, it was that psychological thing, man. She knew that Troy was out there, she knew, whether it comes to, but she would have to know. She knew Troy, and he'd have to go down to this place all the time. He was going down there to the bar, I think it was, all the time, and she knew something was going on, and she was trying to keep Troy there, she might not have known there was a particular woman, and she didn't know about her being pregnant or anything about that, but she was trying to keep Troy in, And then I think she started building, when she decided to go to church, she was building another kind of fence.
Yeah, she had all of the characters, I mean, Troy as well, several different types of fences, emotional fences, keeping people out and keeping people in. Once he revealed his infidelity to her, another kind of fence had to go up for her to be able to move forward the way she did. Yeah.
So, Kathy, you brought up a great point, because my next question was, in the film, in the scene when Troy reveals infidelity to Rose, the film captures a beautiful moment of David's character, Rose, running out of the kitchen, going to the backyard, and running against a chain link fence, and thus being trapped. Usually, sometimes the criticism a lot of adaptations receive from plays is that, well, that's not how they did it in the play. That's not how it's staged. How would you say that moment is particularly staged in the stage version of Fences?
How is it? It's just established right there.
Right there.
It's just established with Rose's demeanor,
Yeah. In the play, all the action takes place in the backyard.
In the backyard.
So
Yeah.
it's just the logistics of the play. All the scenes take place in that backyard. So, it would be. She still has nowhere really to go.
And it's in what she says and what she doesn't say.
And I could admit and say that, I come from a non-traditional family, so I kind of understood Rose's perspective in saying that she wanted to raise a family, a true family. Like, she didn't want no half-brothers, half-sisters, half-siblings, or anything like that, because that's what she came from. Could y'all speak to that kind of experience in the African-American community?
Yeah.
When it comes to like a non-traditional family, how that plays in the role?
I know of a lot of families that are
Yeah.
half brothers, half sisters, half everybody. So-and-so's daddy's coming today, or so-and-so's daddy's, or my baby daddy, that sort of thing, is still going on today. And I can understand. She may have come from that. I think she did.
Yeah,
she did come from that. And she said, I don't want to have nothing,
Right. And that could be, that could very much be why that line is there. But the reality of it is, that's not a situation that's exclusive to the African American
No,
community.
absolutely not.
It's
Absolutely
just
not.
amplified
Absolutely not.
in
Yes.
the African American
Yes.
community.
And
Yes,
it's just
yes,
like
yes.
Ty had said earlier.
That is not
that,
race
all of his
specific.
experiences, everybody in there, it's universal, man.
Exactly.
It's not black or
Yeah,
white.
it's
It's
not just
universal.
black people. No.
It's just, August is just tells about black people.
Right, he's
But
just talking about-
these all of these things are universal.
And that's and again that speaks to why he is a successful playwright.
Exactly.
Because it is, even though it is about the African American experience throughout the century, it's also a universal experience.
So then, could I ask if August Wilson would have continued to write plays into the 2000s, so 2000s, 2010s? Was you just thinking that? See, we're connected.
Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, ask Sean, I'm telling you.
What kind of themes, or what do you think his plays would be about if he would have written into
Oh,
the
I'm
2000s?
sure Black Lives Matter would have come up. He wrote every play from the first decade in the 20th century to the last decade, and the last one was about gentrification.
Yep.
You know, and I mean, he covered everything. He covered this, you know, the closing of Pittsburgh and you know, and the things that happened with the riots and that sort of thing in the 60s. He covered every decade. So I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if he would mention George Floyd. You know, he would be mentioning George Floyd. You know, the only thing is, you know, and just one correction, all 10 of his plays did not happen in Pittsburgh. One of them happened in Chicago.
That's right.
Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Yep.
You know, was the only one that was not in Pittsburgh, but I'm sure he would have moved around. By this time, by the time he did Radio Golf, August was living in Seattle. And normally, as I said before, you know, his plays, before they go to Broadway, they get different cities, you know, Los Angeles. And I got a call from Anthony Chisholm during Radio Golf. He was in that original cast, and they were at the Mark Taper in Los Angeles. Yeah. And he said, pray for August. John, he said he's not doing that well. Normally, August would show up at every theater, take notes, change stuff, you know. This is working, that ain't working.
It's an ongoing process.
It's an ongoing process till it got to Broadway or off Broadway, you know. It was continuously changing, you know. And so I think he would be, today, he would still be writing about the black experience, you know. I mean, here in 2020, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What he could do with this decade.
Yeah, I think of
It's crazy,
many of
man.
the African American playwrights of that time. Like, I could just see fire coming out of Zora's pen as she's writing. I mean, because you think about it, they were writing this passionately and this intensely in the 50s, in the 60s, and imagine what they would be putting on paper after all this time, after all of this life experience. And you know, it excites me when I see young African American playwrights picking up that torch and going with it, because we got some that are fired. Ladarian Williams, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Blood at the Root.
Yep.
He's producing. You got Zandra Espinoza. You know, they're just doing some really meaningful pieces, and I think they draw from studying the August Wilson
Absolutely.
of
Absolutely.
times past, and how
have
they
to.
put that pen to paper and that process and all of that. So when I think of if August Wilson was here today, oh my goodness. Oh my God, I'd be the first one in line. Auditions would be at 7, I'd be there at 5:30. I'm just gonna sit right here on the steps. I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah. So, could I ask, because going back to the writing style, one of my first notes I remember receiving from you, John, when we had rehearsals during Fences, was that the note you gave me was to really pay attention to the music of the script,
Absolutely.
the music of the lines.
Absolutely.
Can you just talk about that in detail? Like, what exactly does that mean for our audience? Like, what is that music in August Wilson's writing?
August was a poet, first and foremost. He was a poet. And as Tyrone said, Claude Purdy, once August had written Jitney, which was his first play, Claude told him, you need to go study playwriting. So he went to St. Paul to the playwriters. They've got an academy there, and
Okay.
he went there to study. And Penumbra Theater, which was the black theater there, was also the first theater after Broadway that was allowed to do Fences. They ran for a couple of years up there in St. Paul, great company. But August also writes, if you remember in Joe Turner's Come and Gone, he tells, what's your character's name?
Look at John putting this
Oh,
on
yeah. Anyhow, yeah, right.
Let me remember back.
Anyhow, he tells him, Bynum tells him, he says, you know, he came up from the South and he was lost. He had been in Joe Turner's prison camp for 7 years. And Harold Loomis.
Okay, there we go.
And Bynum tells Harold
I was over here
Loomis,
like,
you know, when Harold Loomis is going through an experience, he tells him, he says, he says, you got to find your song, Harold. He said, find your song. He said, once you find your song, then you be free. And so August was always talking about finding a song, and because his work is so musical, I asked August at one point, I said, August, what kind of music do you listen to when you're writing? He said, Thelonious Monk. He was into jazz. Thelonious Monk, Miles Davis. He said, I listen to jazz. And you can tell it. And once you sing his song, and then, not in any particular way, but once you sing the lines, remember, once you sing the lines and then go back and say them, you hit all the notes. We speak, we're all musical. We're all musical. We just have to find the songs. Once I attended a Shakespearean play by the Royal Shakespeare Company, and it was in a place where it really wasn't conducive to spoken word. Mm-hmm. It was a music hall, and I couldn't hear the words, but I could hear the music of William Shakespeare. And when the villain came on, the music was in the minor note. And I heard that, and I'm like, wow. It was just a great experience. The same thing with William Shakespeare. He was a classical, his is written in a classical music style.
Yes.
And once you find the music, it's easier to say the line because you'll naturally hit all the right notes when it comes out.
Yeah, and Bessie Smith, he got when he was, I don't know, I think he was 14 or something like that. He heard the music of Bessie Smith for the first time, and that completely changed his life. And him saying that he never had heard anything like that, and he realized that there's a style of music that could be all his, that it wasn't anything like he had heard on the radio or anything like that, but it was this, soulful, talking about, talking about how, her Black experience, and that just kind of changed his life, and that's, so like blues and jazz, that's what he writes to, and that's the music that speaks.
And it works its way into the words themselves. Give you an example too, how it's musical. We were in rehearsal with Fences in Boston.
Okay.
And my bono opens up the play. Mm-hmm. Troy, you ought to stop that line. And so we were coming on, and we'd come on the stage in the rehearsal, and then afterward, Kenny's note was, it didn't sound right when you guys were coming in. And he said, let's try this again. So we come in again, and Troy, you ought to stop that. And so finally, I knew what he's looking for, but I'm not the director. But finally, I told Eugene, I said, listen, man, here's the note. Here's where I'm starting at. Troy, here's where I'm starting at. That's where you need to be. That's our conversation right there. He came on the next time, and every time after that, he had the right note.
All right, yeah.
And once he hit the right note, it flows. Mm-hmm. It flows just like music, like it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. You gotta hit the right note. I listen to some stage plays, man, and I'm hearing the note. Well, no, that's not the right note. That's not the right. You're in the wrong key.
Yeah.
Kathy,
could you give your thoughts with your music background? Is that something you took notice of? Or?
Yeah. I mean, and so I don't want to repeat everything that they just said.
Absolutely. But definitely love your perspective.
But when I read August Wilson, and as I said, I've actually only performed one piece. One piece almost made it to the stage, but I've only actually performed one August Wilson piece. And the one thing that I recognize, especially now, being far more seasoned and being in the director's chair now, you got to read August Wilson for deep understanding.
Yes.
It's not his way of writing is not you can just read it and just put it out there. You got to marinate with that
commit.
thing.
Yeah.
You got to commit. Mm-hmm. You got to get it in you, because you have a lot of aha moments as you're reading through his writings. It's just like, okay. You do a lot of that. You go, oh, okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay. And
did
so-
what?
Yeah. And so going along with what John and Tyrone were talking about, it is all a rhythmic type thing. It's all a rhythm and it's all tempo. And when John was talking about sometimes he'll witness a piece, not necessarily August Wilson, and it's just off. It's that tempo and that rhythm. And if you
It's
can't
the wrong
get,
notes.
yeah,
It's
if you
just the
can't get
wrong
all
notes.
that lined
Yeah.
up,
And what that
Yeah.
tells me too is that the actors on stage aren't talking to each other and listening to each
well,
other.
they're not being,
They're
they're not
in the moment.
participating
They're
as an
not in the
ensemble.
moment.
They're
You
not
know,
participating.
They
as
have
an
this
ensemble.
idea
Not
that it
connected.
should
They're not
go.
connected.
They have
Yeah.
this idea that it should go this in their head. It
Right.
should go like this, as opposed to opening up in the moment and listening and hearing it for the first time. And you'll realize that it's just like this conversation we're having up here.
Yeah.
And that's
You know.
the thing that Kathy said, ensemble. I mean, that is huge in August Wilson's work. There's only one
Yeah.
play that is really a traditional style play, and that's Fences. The other ones are just all ensemble pieces, and that's a large piece because of jazz music and, that he listened to when he writes.
And you gotta be
That's-
locked in
Yeah.
with each other. You gotta be locked in, yeah.
So then my last question for this evening's virtual panel discussion is, how would you compare the film version to the script?
Scripts are always.
Well,
Scripts just are.
Hey, I mean, because you told us how you feel about Denzel Washington.
We're theater
I
people.
think I'm just saying, I think he Denzel'd it, but,
The
but, I
film,
mean,
for me,
and-
the
and-
film was beautiful. I
I'm
thought
sure
it
it's
was
a great film.
beautifully
I mean, Viola Davis
executed.
his performance is
Yeah,
enough
and I
in
enjoyed it.
itself.
I
And
completely
if you've
enjoyed
never
it.
really
It was
seen
beautiful.
a version of Fences.
It was.
A good version of Fences, August Wilson comes through, I'm sure. And that's what you love about the film, It's August Wilson.
Right.
yeah, I mean, and I think.
It's a great story.
I think the story is pretty much the same. It's just the difference in the film and the stage play is the film can take place in more than one
Right.
location.
Right.
Right.
Whereas the stage play, all of August Wilson's stage plays take place in one location.
Even a bad production of August Wilson's plays is good. I've seen some bad
I
ones.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna with that.
If you get in,
Bad
I've
is
seen
just
some bad
bad,
plays.
okay?
and if you can
I didn't hear
get
that note.
past- If you can get past the bad acting and
Well-
catch the story, hey, and I had to do that a lot.
I'ma go
I
let
go
you
to
have
theater,
that.
man, and like, this is awful, but let me tone it down and see if I can get into the story.
If I gotta work that hard.
Well,
Right.
I'm like you, I'm ready to
I
leave
can't
at
do it.
intermission, but
know.
still, I
I'm
mean,
like, come on.
okay, I can stay here at least until intermission. The story-
Yeah.
But I'll go out and get some popcorn and then come back. So,
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much. That concludes our evening virtual panel discussion of August Wilson Fences. I'd like to say thank you to John Beasley, Tyrone Beasley, Kathy Tyree, OPA, and the Symbol Foundation for letting us record here in their studio. And for you all to tuning in and watching the film and for watching our discussion tonight. Thank you all and have a great night.